What's going on, Buckeye Nation and Vols Nation? Welcome to the Columbus Wired Quick Hit Pregame Preview. I'm Andy Evans, and we're here. We've made it. It is playoff time between the 6th-rated and 8th-seeded Ohio State Buckeyes hosting the 7th-rated and 9th-seeded Tennessee Volunteers in a matchup that is going down as the last night game, the last game overall for the first round of the first ever 12-team FBS playoff. And you guys know I like to start off with a little history between Ohio State and the team that they are about to play. However, we all know that there's not much history to tell. Everybody out there pretty much knows by now that the only time that they have ever played was in the 1996 Citrus Bowl, which followed the 1995 season, and it was a game that featured Heisman Trophy winner Eddie George for Ohio State, and some guy, I don't know, that played quarterback for Tennessee, Manning something or other. I think he did all right in his career. But the only time that these two teams played, as most of you already know, the Volunteers got the best of the Buckeyes by a final score of 20-14. But here we are. First time that they're ever going to meet in a playoff situation. And of course, we all now know that this is the first time ever that Ohio State has played a December game in Columbus. And I say in Columbus because, of course, they've played a bunch of postseason games in December. And they actually had one regular season game that they played in the month of December. However, that was against Akron, and it was at Akron, and it was before the turn of the 20th century. It was back in the 1890s. So this is going to be an interesting one. A game featuring two top 4 defenses, and I'm going to hold this guy steady here while I talk. Two top 4 total defenses. And teams that are kind of polar opposites of one another. Tennessee, very good at running the football. Passing game has been all right, has been average. Ohio State, a little bit better at throwing the football as opposed to running the football. Tennessee, of course, led by running back Dylan Sampson, 1,485 yards, ranks 9th in the NCAA right now, and his 22 total touchdowns or 22 rushing touchdowns is good for 4th in the country. And of course, the Buckeyes, led by quarterback Will Howard, who is the 3rd most efficient passer in the country and 4th in completion percentage with over 2,400 yards on the season. Where are my stats? I lost it. 2,400. I do know he's got over 2,400 yards with 27 touchdowns. He has thrown 8 interceptions, and of course he's got the big 3 to throw to. Carnell Tate, 583 receiving yards on the year, 4 touchdowns. Emeka Buka, the senior, with 743 and 9 receiving scores. And then, of course, there's the true freshman, Jeremiah Smith, leads the Buckeyes with 934 yards, 10 receiving touchdowns. On the other side of the ball, Mr. Nico Iamaleava, the redshirt freshman out of California. Say it with me, folks. Iamaleava. He hasn't exactly been a slouch this year for the Volunteers. I mean, his stats aren't necessarily as proficient as Will Howard, but he's actually thrown 19 touchdowns and only 5 interceptions. He's completed 66% of his passes this year. He's only got one wide receiver, though, with over 500 yards on the season, Dante Thornton, who's got 647 and 6 scores. However, Nico likes to spread the ball around. Ohio State's a little top-heavy. After Tate with 583 receiving yards, Brandon Innes is their 4th leading receiver with 151 on the season. G. Scott is 5th with 150. However, Nico has 4 guys, aside from Thornton, that have at least 200 receiving yards on the year. Tennessee's defense, as good as they are, they've been a little susceptible, though, to giving up the pass. 4 games that they've given up at least 200 yards or more. And Ohio State has only 2 games this year with less than 200 yards through the air. That, of course, being Penn State and the last game that they played here in the Horseshoe, which we all know how that one ended and who it was against. Here are my keys to the game, though. All right. It comes down to Tennessee's ability to run the ball, and it's against a very stout Ohio State rushing defense. But we saw how stout that rushing defense was against Michigan when they came into the game as the third-rated rushing defense in the entire country, only giving up 90 yards a game, and they ended up giving up 172 to Michigan, a majority of it to Kalel Maulings, who had 116 yards and a rushing score. So if Tennessee is able to establish the run tonight, and they are able to eat up some clock and play ball control, and they can keep Ohio State's defense off of his back, that offensive line has given up 26 sacks this year. But if they're able to keep Ohio State's defense off of his back, he can scramble a little bit too. Don't let his 6'6" frame deceive you. He can run the football a little bit. His rushing stats aren't overwhelming, but over 300 yards on the year with a rushing touchdown. He can scramble if needed. And if he can kind of play a little bit of Dylan Gabriel-esque football, where we remember how Gabriel torched Ohio State's one-on-one, leaving Denzel Burke on an island defense. I don't know if we'll see that tonight out of Jim Knowles. But if this offensive line can keep Ohio State's defense off of Nico's back, and Nico can kind of step up, make throws over the middle to wide open receivers like Dylan Gabriel did, and Dylan Gabriel was able to kind of move around in the pocket and escape sacks, Tennessee's probably going to have a good night, especially if they can run the football. However, if Ohio State's defense is able to shut down Dylan Sampson and put some pressure on Nico and make him toss, get some sacks on him and make him throw some bad passes, then I think the Buckeyes are going to have a good night. So those are my keys to the game. Also, third down and fourth down. Tennessee, very good on third down. Let me get this stat right. They are fifth in the country in only allowing teams to convert 29% of their third downs. And they are first in the country against on fourth down, right now, 28% they have allowed on the season to convert on fourth down, this Tennessee defense. And Ohio State's offense, when it comes to third and fourth down, 47th in the country on third down, converting only 42% of their third downs. They are 16th on fourth down, converting 69%. So if Tennessee's defense, though, holds Ohio State to some long third down situations, Buckeyes might have an issue with that. But my X factor for the Buckeyes is Will Howard and his ability to throw the football, and on a cold, it's freezing right now. The tips of my fingers are numb. It's like 26 degrees with a wind chill of like 18, and it's going to be a little bit colder than that as darkness falls when kickoff happens here at 8 o'clock. So there you have it. All right? If Ohio State and Will Howard can throw the football and they don't try to run it down the teeth of Tennessee's defensive line that is very, very, very good, might be just as good, if not better, than Michigan's defensive line. But if Ohio State can at least throw the ball, run a little bit, they're not going to be able to throw every single down, especially with it being as cold as it is in the wind chill. But be able to throw the ball at times, and if their defense can create some havoc in the backfield on Nico and stop Dylan Sampson, the Buckeyes probably going to have a good night. However, if Dylan's able to run and Nico can escape pressure and find some open guys at times or scramble when he needs to, the Vols might be walking out of here with their second ever win against Ohio State. So there you have it. Once again, this has been the Columbus Wired Quick Hit Pregame Preview. I'm Andy Evans. I appreciate you all watching. Until the postgame, everybody take care and enjoy.